What's going on, everyone? Today we are talking top 12 Dynasty running backs. Whether you're in a startup draft, whether you want to know approximate trade value, this video is for you. And be sure to stay tuned until the end because there will be some hot takes. There will be a little bit of bonus content as well. But before we hop into the video, if you guys could, go down and give this video a like. I'm answering every single comment. If you guys have any fantasy football related questions, please let me know down below. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. It is the #1 way to support me. It's completely free. It would mean the absolute world to me. With that out of the way, though, guys, let's hop right into it with our first player. And this should be no surprise to anyone. Drum roll, please. It's Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, the #1 Dynasty running back right now, in my opinion. And it's not just because I'm drafting him in my home league at the 101 this season. Bijan Robinson, already over on Keep Trade Cut, is the running back 1, being only behind 2 players on the entire site. That is Justin Jefferson, that is Ja'Marr Chase. Both phenomenal assets in their own right, but Bijan Robinson really has no flaws with his profile. He's 21 years old right now, only 21.3, so he will be 21 during this NFL season. He has insane contact balance. He's quick. He's agile. He has arguably the best vision I've ever seen out of a running back prospect. Probably the best vision I've personally scouted out of a running back prospect, and that's what I love to see because he's very patient. He waits for the holes to open up and then cuts through them like there's no tomorrow. Can make defenders miss very, very easily. Over 100 missed tackles last season, which is the first time that's happened in the PFF era. And then he ends up 8th overall to the Falcons. 8th overall, first of all, great draft capital. But this Falcons offense is a run-first offense under Arthur Smith. Tyler Algier just had over 1,000 yards there last year. And Bijan Robinson's a much better running back than Tyler Algier. We'll see what happens, but I think Bijan Robinson right now does deserve to be my RB1. Now the next guy I want to talk about is Breece Hall. And Breece Hall, deserving of the #2 spot at the running back position. I mean, in his rookie season, he looked to be the breakout, the league winner that everyone was hoping for before he tore his ACL. And now we will have to see whether or not he's able to come back okay, but I think he should be able to. The reports were saying it was a clean tear, nothing really wrong with it. And then you have Aaron Rodgers, a guy who supported Aaron Jones to top 10 running back seasons the past 4 seasons. So I think Breece Hall will be absolutely fine. The talent's there, the quarterback play is there, the O-line could be better, but it's fine. I like Breece Hall a lot. I think he does deserve to be the #2, especially because of his age. I mean, he is also somebody who's 21 years old. Despite coming out last year in the draft, will be 22 during the NFL season. Either way, though, next up I have Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor, another great Dynasty asset. Somebody I would pick at #3 in startup drafts, just because I think Jonathan Taylor is that special of a running back. I mean, he has the potential to finish as the running back 1 on any given season. We saw that 2 years ago. Last year was riddled with injuries, which is a little bit concerning, but I think long term he will be absolutely fine. This is somebody who up until last year had never even missed a practice from high school all the way up to the NFL level. I'm not too worried about Jonathan Taylor. And he is still just 24 years old, meaning you have at least 2 years of really great production before I would consider selling off, generally speaking. I think Jonathan Taylor stepping into an interesting situation too with Anthony Richardson. Historically speaking, these running backs who operate with rushing quarterbacks do see a bump up in efficiency in terms of their yards per carry. I mean, we've seen it with guys like J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders. These type of running backs are often able to average over 5 yards a carry in their offense. And Jonathan Taylor, somebody who can already average over 5 yards a carry. So I think Jonathan Taylor's efficiency could go through the roof. You will see a little bit of a decrease in his overall receiving work, but I think that will be made up for with the efficiency in his rushing work, which I think is awesome for Jonathan Taylor. Why I still have him at 3 rather than moving him up or down. Moving it down a tier, and I know this sounds crazy, but moving it down a tier, we do have Christian McCaffrey. And Christian McCaffrey, a guy I would have liked to have had in this top tier of guys. My problem now is his age. He's 27 years old at this current point, meaning that realistically we probably only have a season or 2 of great production left at the running back position. I mean, just as an example, look at the other running backs that are in Christian McCaffrey's draft class. You have Leonard Fournette, somebody who's not even on a roster anymore. You have Dalvin Cook. We don't even know if the Vikings are going to be able to keep him. Still a great running back in his own right. Joe Mixon, who's absolutely fallen off a cliff this last season. I mean, his efficiency was historically terrible. You got Alvin Kamara, somebody who might not play at all and has had declining efficiency for the last 2 seasons. Kareem Hunt, not even signed as of right now. I mean, most of these players have been through the gauntlet of the NFL and now are worn beyond compare. Christian McCaffrey hasn't yet seen that decline, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's great for Christian McCaffrey. I hope and pray he doesn't see that decline for another 2 or 3 seasons. But historically speaking, this is around the age where you're going to want to sell these type of running backs, and unless you're trying to build a contending team right this second, I would be a little bit concerned with Christian McCaffrey. I think you probably have a year or two left of phenomenal production out of him, and the production I'm talking is obviously league-altering type of production. I mean, we're talking 25 fantasy points a game at the position, especially in the offense season. That's why I do still have him ranked very, very highly. Well, I do love Christian McCaffrey. That's why I do have him at 4 personally. Moving on to number 5, and this is going to be the other person in this tier. It's Jahmyr Gibbs, and yes, I know Jahmyr Gibbs has not played a single snap in the NFL. It is a little bit concerning, but when you go 12th overall to a team with a phenomenal offensive line, a good head coach, a good quarterback, and they clear the depth chart for you by trading away DeAndre Swift, I have a lot of faith in Jahmyr Gibbs to be a great player at the NFL level. He's a phenomenal receiving down skill set and the quarterback who's going to be able to fulfill that receiving down skill set. DeAndre Swift alone these last 2 seasons, despite missing time due to injury in both seasons, picked up 78 and 70 targets in the last 2 years. Gibbs is going to be stepping into that role, and we should even see an increase in the amount of targets he's able to get. We could easily see Gibbs have over 100 targets this season, and if he's able to do that, almost no matter what, Gibbs is finishing as a top 12 RB. Even if Jahmyr Gibbs is only out there getting 150 carries, if you are getting 100 targets, let's say 70 receptions just to be fair for the sake of argument, that's 220 total touches, which Austin Ekeler had in 2019 when he finished as the running back 4. He did have 11 touchdowns that season, but I don't think a touchdown range like that is outside the realm of possibility for a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, especially when you look at what the team was able to do last year with Javonte Williams, a running back who historically is really not that great of a running back, and yet breaks the Lions touchdowns record, having 17 total touchdowns. If Jahmyr Gibbs is able to have 8 touchdowns in this offense, which I think is entirely possible, he will finish as the top 12 running back this season, which I think is absolutely fine at the position. That's why I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. The only concern you have with him is weight, but I think his speed, his change of direction outweigh that, no pun intended, and that's why I got Jahmyr Gibbs here. Next up, we're bringing it down a tier, and it pains me to say as a Giants fan, we got Saquon Barkley as my next player. I think Saquon Barkley, a great running back in his own right. Someone who was picked top 3 in the NFL draft for a reason. He was actually picked 2. And there's really nothing wrong with Saquon. He's been a lot more consistent this past season than he was 2-3 seasons ago when he was trying to go for the home run hit every time. And now I really like that part of Saquon. We should see Saquon get more targets in this offense this next season because we do have a slightly upgraded offensive line. Saquon Barkley was used a lot of times to block in this offense. Now he should be able to catch a little bit more passes simply because the offense is opening up a little bit more. But the reason why I have him a bit lower is the same reason as CMC. Saquon Barkley, a 26-year-old running back, probably only has about 2 or 3 years left of great production in him. And at that point, I would rather these younger assets, the ascending assets, rather than the potentially descending assets. Although if you are a contending roster, Saquon Barkley an absolutely fine pickup for you. Moving on, we do have Travis Etienne, and Travis Etienne, a great running back, somebody who during the season last year was looking to be a league winner at the position. Kind of has a little bit of a fall off, comes back down to earth, but still looks like he can be a high-end RB2 in the NFL for years, especially being attached to Trevor Lawrence. So I like Travis Etienne a lot. I don't think he will ever finish as the running back 1, but I think he does have the potential to be a top 10 guy, maybe like 8 to 12 year in and year out. I think that's absolutely fine at the position. You can't ask for much more than that. Probably the best possible RB2 you could have, and if you have him as an RB1, still absolutely fine. You can't be mad. Moving on, we do have Josh Jacobs, and I don't know if this is high or this is low for Josh Jacobs because Jacobs is a phenomenal running back. I mean, we started last season with the new coaching staff. He was finally able to do what he's had the potential to do over the last 3 seasons under this new coaching staff, which I think is great for Josh Jacobs. The question is what Josh Jacobs did this last season the new norm, or is this something that could be an anomaly? And to be 100% honest, I don't know. That's why I have him ranked perfectly in the middle. I think exactly where he should be ranked because we don't know what's going to happen to him in the future. He is just 25 years old. In fact, he's the same exact age as Najee Harris, despite coming into the league a full 2 seasons earlier, which could put a little bit more wear and tear on Josh Jacobs' body. But I think if you're comparing Josh Jacobs to Najee Harris, them being the same age is a pretty good sign for Josh Jacobs, maybe less of a good sign for somebody like Najee Harris. That's why I do really like Josh Jacobs here. I think he fits in this tier with Saquon and Travis Etienne rather than in the next tier with guys with a little bit more question marks. I think Josh Jacobs doesn't necessarily have room to exceed my ranking on this dynasty list, but he's a great contending asset to have. And if you do have him on your roster, especially as your RB2, because you probably got him late in startups, whenever that was. So either way, Josh Jacobs, a great running back, somebody you can rely on for at least the next few seasons. And I think that's absolutely fine. Moving on and moving it down a tier, we do have Ken Walker. And Ken Walker is one of the most interesting players in all of Dynasty right now. I mean, this is somebody who had a phenomenal rookie season. Was coming off as a consensus top 7 running back over on Underdog Fantasy. And on Keep Trade Cut, he was the running back 3 in all of Dynasty. Now falling all the way down to be the running back 8. I personally have him as the running back 9, just below Josh Jacobs, and I think this is about where he should be bottoming out, simply because I know the addition of Charbonnet is painful, but Ken Walker proved he had the talent last season, and although they do like to bring in a running back somewhat high, we should still see Ken Walker have at least 55 to even 60% of the snaps, which I think is absolutely fine at the position. Well, it is not the ceiling that we were hoping for with Ken Walker. The floor should still be there, especially because these guys do kind of operate as 2 different running backs. Charbonnet more of the pass catcher, more going to be coming in on 3rd downs. Ken Walker more the home run type of running back where he will break off these huge, massive plays for 50, 60 yards and score a touchdown. So I do still think this running back room will be more 60-40 Ken Walker Charbonnet, which again is fine. And if I'm going to be catching the falling knife on a player, so to speak, I would like to catch it on a 22-year-old running back who's shown potential RB1 talent in his rookie season. I still really like Ken Walker. I think this deserves to be his floor, especially with his age, his production, and the fact that he could still rush for 1,200 yards this season. Moving on, we do have Najee Harris. I debated between Najee and Pollard for a little while now. I ended up settling over on Najee simply because Najee is, for one, a full year younger, but 2, the fact that Najee has much better draft capital than Tony Pollard means that this Pittsburgh Steelers team is much less likely to bring in another running back long term. And since Najee is 1 year younger, he has a higher draft capital. And the Steelers offensive line has improved a ton. I mean, they draft Broderick Jones. They pick up the Eagles right guard in free agency. This is a team that is looking up. Kenny Pickett also going into his 2nd year should mature a little bit as a quarterback. At least that's what the hope is. So I think Najee Harris is stepping into an improved situation. And well, I don't think Najee Harris could ever be the running back 1, whereas Tony Pollard I think does have the upside to be the running back 1. I think the long-term outlook for a guy like Najee Harris is much more stable than a guy like Tony Pollard, because we really don't know long-term if the Cowboys are going to go out and draft a running back, but we are pretty sure that the Steelers team is going to be relying on Najee Harris for the next 2-3 seasons at least. That's why I do have Najee Harris above Pollard. But Pollard, a phenomenal running back in his own right. I put out a top secret Dynasty Buy Low running backs video right here. You can go check it out. Put that out yesterday. A great video, by the way. Some steals, some deals in that video. Either way, though, Tony Pollard does have the ability to finish as the running back 1, which I think is really the only case that you could draft him above Najee Harris. It basically comes down to what you prefer between stability and boom bust. I think Pollard has the ability to boom. Najee Harris gives you the stability. It's whatever you prefer. And personally for me in this scenario, when we're kind of getting more into the RB2 range, I'll take the stability with Najee Harris. I'll take the year with Najee Harris. I'll take the comfort of having him for potentially another year or 2. I'm fine with it, but either way, Tony Pollard, a great running back, and still definitely does deserve to be here. I feel like I should have him higher, to be 100% honest with you guys. I just can't do it to myself. Either way, my number 12 running back is Javonte Williams, and I think Javonte Williams, somebody who was drafted early on at the 2nd round by this Denver Broncos offense, and the Broncos with Sean Payton do not elect to bring in a single running back in the draft with their albeit limited draft capital, but draft capital. The only other running back in this room that is a serious threat to Javonte Williams is Samaje Perine. And are you really worried about Samaje Perine sapping serious volume when, aside from coming in when Joe Mixon has been injured, has never taken serious volume from Joe Mixon? Never. Samaje Perine's been in the league for 6 years. He's 27 years old. while I do like Najee and I actually think he's pretty underrated running back, he's not going to be somebody who's taking serious volume from Javonte Williams. And even if, let's say, worst case scenario, it's 65-35. Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine at the end of the season. I'm not going to say at the beginning, simply because they probably will try and gear Javonte up slowly from this ACL. I think that is still a ton of work. We've seen what Javonte Williams can do in a 50-50 split. In his rookie year, he finished as the RB18 despite being in a true 50-50 split with Melvin Gordon. If it's more like 60-40, 65-35, he has top 10 RB potential written all over him. This is somebody who catches the ball out of the backfield very efficiently. This is somebody who has breakaway runs while carrying defenders on his shoulders. I think the talent of Javonte Williams is too much not to go out and try and get him at a discount, simply because he is rated lower than this on Keep Trade Cut. This is a guy who did just turn 23 years old, very young running back, and somebody who could help win you a league in the near future. Well, this year might be a little bit concerning. You might want to wait a year, gauge out this torn ACL, rather than try and buy in now and then risk injury like somebody like J.K. Dobbins, Saquon Barkley did after their torn ACL season. I think a great value and somebody who in the future will be a top 12 running back on Keep Trade Cut. Lastly, I do have one more player I want to talk about. This is a bonus player. That's what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. It is Austin Ekeler. I think Austin Ekeler does deserve to be here. A great running back in his own right. And while he probably only has a year left of RB1 production, that year of RB1 production could get you 20 touchdowns in a season. Over the past 2 seasons, he's had 38 total touchdowns, which is a total that very few running backs are able to hit. So I really like Austin Ekeler if you are a contending roster. The problem, again, you probably only have 1 year of RB1 level production left before the Chargers either elect to go and bring in someone else, or the wheels start to fall off and Austin Ekeler becomes a less efficient running back, loses a step or two in this offense. And that's why I do have Austin Ekeler below Javonte Williams. I can understand having him above if you are a true contending roster, but I think Javonte Williams the better long-term asset, and that is generally the way I like to gear my dynasty teams. Either way though, guys, hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, go smash that like button. I am answering every single comment, so if you guys have any questions, please let me know down below, and sub to the channel. It is the #1 way to support me, completely free. It would mean the absolute world to me, but of course you could always change your mind later. With that, as always, guys, have a good day, a good night, and a good life.